Hey, everybody, welcome back to Stop.Sit.Surrogate with Kennedy and Ellen. We have a very fun podcast in store today, very interesting. So, we're going to let you introduce yourselves.
Yeah, hello. So my name is Kim. I'm a British traditional surrogate. And like you, I'm the daughter of a surrogate. So my mum carried six babies, six babies for four families throughout 10 years of my childhood. Surrogacy was just the most normal thing in our family, in our house. And yeah, I knew from quite a young age that it was something that I was going to pursue as well.
Oh my gosh. Kim, I love you already.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we are Tom and Chris. We're Kim's latest intended parents.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I have a question now. So, do you guys do I don't know how it works in the UK. Do you guys do agencies or do you guys do independently?
Both pathways are feasible and accepted at the moment, but there is a big surrogacy reform happening probably in the next year, which will make independent journeys much more difficult.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, so it's I think people that we know go through agencies as well, because that's how we've met our respective communities. I think independent journeys come with a set of particular challenges, which isn't something that I would particularly be interested in. But yeah, it is still currently an option for people in the UK.
Can you just touch on one maybe reason why it may be going to the extent of it's going to be harder to do an independent journey? Is there something on the legislation or forefront that's making it difficult or going to make it difficult?
Yeah, so they're saying that it will have to be through a registered surrogacy organisation.
Okay.
And there's certain criteria that you have to meet to become one of those RSOs. So yeah, independent journeys just wouldn't be feasible. And I wonder if it would still be accepted under the current model where you apply for a parental order post-birth, but for the new model of a pre-conception parental order being put in place, you could only do it through an RSO.
Okay. That's very interesting.
Also, what's interesting is because we've only ever talked to one other person who's on a traditional journey. So this is phenomenal. Is this common in the UK to do traditional, or is it like 50-50?
It's less common nowadays. People are certainly preferring to go through the egg creation route. That was how we intended on starting our journey. So initially, we were going to the clinics, looking at what availability they had of eggs and what viable routes we could go down to create the embryos first before we found our surrogate. But everything that we've done through the surrogacy agencies that we've worked with has always been so much about building relationships, surrogates with the IPs and IPs with the surrogates. It's all been about friendship first. It's been, and for us, our child, everything being completely open from day one has always been incredibly important. And so as time went on, it just sort of became quite clear, well, why are we doing this additional step? Why are we going to get an egg from someone that we potentially don't know? We then looked into, okay, well, could we go down the known egg donor route? And it just sort of became very clear that, well, if we have these amazing surrogates around that are willing to use their eggs to do everything in a much more natural way, the way, say, more that the human body is made to do, we're also less keen on the medical intervention side. The traditional surrogacy just suddenly started jumping out as, this is what we want to do. It's going to be a lot easier for us to build a really, really close relationship with our surrogate. And it's going to be a lot easier for us to explain the journey and the process that we went to create our baby.
So as we were beginning our conversations, especially with friends and family, usually the first question that's asked of us is, what's the relationship going to be? And in our minds, we actually, it sounds very surreal for us to say, we actually dreamed of this to be the ideal situation for us, in meeting a great friend who we can continue that friendship with into the future, especially when having children. we didn't want to just speak about the early parts of a child's life. We're also talking about when we have a teenager who may be learning more about themselves, and where they're learning more about themselves, we want to make it as easy as possible for them to know their origination story without them having everything else in the world going wild, such as what bus to get after school and who's got detention. And so we want to normalize surrogacy as much as possible. And so by having Kim and Kim's partner Dilara involved throughout our child's whole life in a auntie, godmother style position for our child, will just be so normal. It will be loving, and our families have absolutely intertwined together as well through this. And it sounds very hippy dippy, but it's been really, really nice, and that's been really strong part of our journey as well.
Oh my gosh, this sounds like
it
the
was all-
perfect,
Yeah.
the perfect relationship. Oh my gosh, this is so
But
beautiful.
Being a perfect relationship, I'm sure you had to work at it. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say it was hard, but I'm sure there was effort on both sides, and you both went in with the same mentality of, hey, this is what we're trying to accomplish, and you're making it work. Yeah.
I think honesty was the
Yeah.
key for that. It was actually very quick and not something that I advocate for, you know, when I'm talking to other surrogates about matching.
Yeah.
But I was on quite a short timeline because I'm getting married this September and I didn't want to be pregnant for the wedding. So it meant I had a really short window, but it worked. We all felt that click. We all felt that connection, and the friendship just blossomed very, very quickly.
That is
Have you done this before, Kim, or is this first time?
So this is my second journey. Yeah, I carried a baby for a straight couple during the pandemic. So that was very different as well, being
Yeah.
pregnant during a pandemic. It's quite nice actually going out with a bump now and like showing off a little bit. It's great.
Yeah. Was that a traditional journey as well?
Yeah. I don't personally have an interest in gestational surrogacy. I know quite a lot of friends who have had really, really tough pregnancies through like embryo transfer pregnancies. I think while I have got my own eggs and everything's working, and you know, it's just such a simple way of getting pregnant as well. The genetic connection doesn't bother me at all. I don't want my own kids, so I don't have that thought of like there's half siblings of children out there or anything like that. It's literally just I'm using a part of my body to give something to someone that they really, really want.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, you mentioned something, so now I have to ask, because in the US, you have to have had a child of your own before you can be a surrogate. Did you have a child of your own, or in the UK is that different?
No, so I'm child-free surrogate. There are a few of us. Yeah, it's a little bit harder to get sort of accepted as a child-free surrogate, but it's not one of the rules. It's like kind of one of the recommendations. But then like we have counselling and everything. The leader of the surrogacy organization sort of really made sure that I didn't want my own kids and that I wasn't going to change my mind or anything. But I think that's a really common misconception in surrogacy in general anyway, that the surrogate is going to change her mind. Like if I wanted to go and have a baby, I could do it much easier than going through surrogacy.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. Okay, so now I have to ask you a question, Kim. Did you still do medications?
No, none at all. It was at home insemination.
Wow.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, very, very straightforward. Got pregnant the first month as well.
I was gonna ask that. Wow.
Oh
Good for you guys, all three of you. Wow.
No. What? So you didn't even know if it was going to be a boy or a girl? Like this is also fascinating because here, so uncommon. So you didn't know if it was a boy or girl. Do you know what you're having now, or is it still a surprise?
Yeah, we can share. We're having a boy.
Yay! Oh, congratulations!
That's awesome. And how far along are you, Kim? I don't even think we asked.
31 weeks.
Wow, you're getting close. Good
So
for you.
Yeah, 3/4.
April? Are you due April?
April, end of
April, yeah.
End of April.
Oh,
Okay.
spring
Yeah.
baby. Oh my
Yeah.
Oh God,
It's
that's
interesting you say about the gender though. In the UK, you're not allowed to know the gender of the embryos. It's selected randomly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same in Canada too. The US, I don't know, they're just like pick whichever. It's interesting. It's interesting.
I wonder how it will affect like the ratios of sexes of babies being born as well. It's interesting.
Yeah, because I
Exactly.
never really kind of thought of that, because each time that I've done it, because I'm going on my 4th journey, and so each time I've known, like, is it a boy or is it a girl? Like before we even start, like when we're in a match meeting, they're like, so we're gonna have a girl, and it's like, oh, okay, like
Wow.
that's nice to know, I guess. Yeah, so it's interesting for
Does
sure.
it affect your decision making? Do you prefer carrying one or the other?
No,
Oh,
I've noticed that when I carry boys, I want to eat hamburgers like my whole pregnancy. Do you do that too?
Because I
No.
love meat.
Oh, okay.
that's
I
funny.
do. My doctor's like, it's because you're lower in iron when you're pregnant with boys. And I was like, well, I don't know what it is, but we have a place called In-N-Out here, and I just would go and get burgers and fries probably like 4 times a week. It was really bad.
Amazing.
That's
There
okay.
are
Came out
perks to
healthy.
everything.
Yeah.
So can I back up just a little? How did you guys meet? You both were at the same agency. Do you call them agencies? I apologize because I don't know. Yes? Agency?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you both were at the same agency, and did you want a same-sex couple, Kim, or was it just they were the next available? don't know.
I was specifically looking for a same-sex couple.
Okay.
I'm in a same-sex relationship myself, so I just thought the balance would be really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when the 4 of us go out, we look like 2 heteronormative couples. So people
That's
just
cute.
assume.
Yeah.
Cute. Oh my God.
But I was talking to a lot of couples. At one time, I was talking to 15 different gay men.
Really?
And I was being very honest with all of them. You know, I was saying, like, I'm talking to a lot of people. I'm really trying to maximize my chances here of meeting someone and finding that connection.
Wow.
Yeah, it was tricky. It was a lot.
How?
But we were actually with different agencies at the time.
Ah.
So I was with one called COTS, which is Childlessness Overcome Through Surrogacy, which was set up by a woman called Kim Cotton, who was the first British surrogate back in the 80s.
That's very cool.
That
So
is
if you were
cool.
with different agencies, how did you click? How did you find one another? And just a piggyback question, 15 couples, like the agencies gave you that many profiles? Because here,
That's
no
crazy.
way, no way. Mm-mm. In the
15
US.
gay men. So
Okay.
But
7 couples and 1
still.
single.
That's still a
Yeah.
lot. I mean,
Still
kudos
so
to you
many.
for looking for that correct connection. I'm all over that. But we're limited here. They like give you like 2 or 3 or 1 at a time until you
Mhm.
say, oh yeah, this one will work.
Yeah, I think that's a more sensible way of doing it, to be honest, because it was a lot. Like, my
Okay.
partner literally became my PA. I was trying to keep track of everything, and I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. No,
So
that
with
is
the
nice.
different agencies, then how did you guys come together?
So because we're with separate agencies, and everyone goes down more of the altruistic route in the UK.
Okay.
And as Tom was saying, it's about finding the right friend.
Yeah.
You can sometimes be in a position where you can feel single again, and so you can be a part of an agency, and you think, actually, do I need to sort of, is this, I don't know, for want of a better phrase, is this app, for example, right for me dating, or should we try something else? And it was very, very surreal. Tom was just cooking in the kitchen. I just popped out a nice little post on this new agency, not telling Tom that I'd done it. I just thought, okay, well, sometimes you've got to be in charge of your own destiny. If you want to meet the right person, you've got to get out there.
Mhm.
And within 2 hours, Kim had already started messaging us, and
via Facebook.
Yeah, via Facebook. And as Kim was saying, Kim was very honest from the beginning as well, of saying, look, I'm opening myself up here in saying I'm speaking with lots of couples at the same time. These are my aims, these are my ambitions. And yeah, then Kim said, right, we've done enough messaging now. Do you mind if we just catch up in person? Do you want to meet in person? And we said, okay, yeah, that sounds cool. Okay. And I kid you not, it was like the nerves of a first date. It was like, okay, I hope she likes us.
Yeah.
So we went along to a good old English pub, and we're sitting in the beer garden, and we all sat there just chatting away. And I tell you what was really lovely. One thing that doesn't happen that often in the UK that we feel happens is when you're going down a surrogacy route, people don't talk about surrogacy enough. So what was refreshing with Kim was we sat down and Kim was like, right, you know, here's my bullet points. These are my deal breakers. You know, these are my red flags. And we're like, oh my God, this is exactly the same for us as well. And so we're able to start the conversation immediately by putting all our cards on the table. And everything was so agreeable that how long were we there for in the end?
Like 4 hours, I think. We met up for like a quick drink, and 4 hours later I was starving hungry. Like, what time is it?
Wow.
Oh my God.
That meant to be, just
Yes.
meant to be.
I'd put my post on Facebook, like a reintroduction post, at basically the same time that they put their introduction post on, and got chatting straight away, and it was very much like the stars had aligned.
Oh
That's
my
so cool.
gosh.
That is so
Your
cool.
story is so wonderful. I'm so envious.
is.
But it's so great.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Oh my gosh. Kim, did your mom do traditional then?
Yes,
She did.
Sorry,
yeah.
mouth
So
dropped.
she also never considered gestational. She didn't want to go through clinics. It's interesting because the way she explained it to me as a 5-year-old is kind of the way I've always carried on with it. And she said that when you release an egg, if it doesn't get fertilized, it just becomes your next period. It just gets flushed down the toilet. So why not put it to good use? Like, that was the most basic explanation that I actually think adults understand that a lot more than
Totally.
overcomplicate it as well.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Wow. So she started when you were 5.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And had she
go
had
ahead.
she
No, go ahead.
completed her family before she started surrogacy, or was there kids in between surrogacies?
Yeah, so it was just me. She was
Just you. Okay.
Yeah. happy having just an only child. That was probably a handful.
So
So easy.
so I don't know how it is. I don't know how surrogacy. Well, why don't I ask that first? Okay, so how is surrogacy accepted in the UK? Is it accepted?
Yeah,
Generally pretty
very-
well, I think.
very
yeah.
casually. A lot of workplaces have surrogacy policies. So you both have very good policies with your workplaces. My workplace doesn't have any policy. But what has been quite lovely about that is that they've just sort of said, okay, so what's the best way for this to work for you guys? And so it's all been very, very open, and although it's trying to navigate the different way the policies need to work for us as individuals, for Kim to make sure that she's taking time off to rest afterwards. It's been very well respected, especially in the workplaces. In society, there are a lot of questions, and sometimes they can be the same questions. However, what we like is that people ask the questions, and no one's silly for ever asking a question about surrogacy, because the more questions that are asked, the more people absorb. And as I mentioned earlier, it becomes so normal within society.
Yeah, the more it's talked about, it's like, oh, okay, like, yeah, great. And then you move on with your day. And so I'm just curious, because here it's a little 50. I wouldn't know if it's 50-50. Maybe it's like 80-20, 80% accepted, 20% not. I haven't heard of any surrogacy policies for people though. So that's fascinating that you guys are offered that, because the US needs to take some notes on that. My goodness.
Take like maternity leave because you were pregnant, but it's not necessarily geared towards.
They view it more as
baby.
They view it more as like adoption policies in that sense. So it's interesting.
It's quite similar. It's sort of tied together in the UK as well. But yeah, for me, I maternity leave the same as any pregnant woman.
So because this is traditional, Kim and Chris and Tom, number one, do you have to establish paternity? And number two, do you go to court to establish like a pre-birth or a post-birth judgment?
So it's a post-birth parental order. I will go on the initial birth certificate. And the surrogate maintains parental rights until the parental order goes through. So that's where that sort of misconception can come from, that, oh, well, the surrogate can change her mind and choose to keep the baby at any point. I did meet a family where the surrogate refused to sign the parental order. So she is still on the child's birth certificate. He's like 8 years old now. So it's gone past the window as well. And she didn't do it to keep the child. She just did it because the relationship broke down and kind of out of spite. But those cases are extremely, extremely rare. Yeah, you know, there's always horror stories.
We know.
Oh yeah, we both had our share. So just because she didn't sign doesn't mean that child went to his parents. So like the court will still rule, because the child's been with their parents for that amount of time, it would be more disruption for the child to then go
to the surrogate. So
Exactly.
yeah, even though there's like a legal standpoint for the surrogate,
Yeah.
it would often rule in the parent's favor anyway.
So technically then it's an amended birth certificate. So there's the one with your name, because I'm adopted, so I'm just looking at it from that point of view. I have two, one with birth parents and the other one with my adopted parents.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense.
And what we love as well at the moment is Kim and Dilara will go on to the birth certificate. And so, before
Yeah, my partner will go on as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's
So
I
it's
should
usually
think
surrogate
about that.
husband, but in this case, yeah, it will be
surrogate's wife. So
it'll
there's
be
going to be a
wife.
baby that's born to two women, which is fantastic.
Very cool.
That is
Two
so
men.
It's the most 2024 thing.
Oh my, I love it. I love it.
It's
Oh my
great.
gosh. Oh, how
That's
funny.
really cool.
That is cool because so we had talked to a traditional IP, so like you guys, and they're a heterosexual couple, and so but what's happening here is the surrogate initially goes on the birth certificate, and the intended father goes on the birth certificate,
Right.
and then they amend it or whatever, and now the intended mother goes on it as well. But in your case, you and your partner, that's interesting.
And-
The
and in
UK is
that-
so fun.
In the case Kennedy's referencing, they have to establish, that's why I asked it, they have to
Mhm.
establish paternity within 72 hours.
Oh,
That's not the case here.
Yeah.
No?
no, within 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unmarried surrogates, yeah, can choose to put the intended father on the birth certificate.
Okay.
Legally, married surrogates should put their husband or wife on.
Okay.
It kind of just depends on the registrar on the day as well, and if they
Oh.
can use a bit of common sense and be like, well, obviously two women didn't create this child.
Yeah.
Good.
Interesting.
Funny.
But yeah, it's
This is why the law reform
Mm.
are hopefully
Right.
going to be going through soon to help just tidy up
Yeah.
this mess
Yeah.
of there's things like
Yeah.
because of arrangement, social services will be notified on the baby's birth. Again, we don't mind that because we know that
Yeah.
everything in our situation is completely fine. And so the local organisations want to come in and make sure that everything is okay, that the baby is safe and in the right place, not to be with the birthing woman. So yeah, there's sort of just these sort of little things that just make it a little bit messy that needs to be ironed out because a lot of it, it's just not regulated for.
Mhm.
So you mentioned social services, they need to be notified. Do they come and do like a home inspection of your home, Chris and Tom, or no?
So we have home visits with the midwife.
Okay.
We're going through a route with a private midwife, and so she's been involved with us as we're called a surrogacy cluster, with our cluster since 8 weeks of pregnancy. So she's been very much involved.
Okay.
We're going to be hoping, fingers crossed, for a home birth as well. And
Whoa.
so our midwife, Fiona, will be very hands-on and has already arranged a lot of meetings between ourselves as a group with the local hospital as well. And the local hospital has also ensured that social services have been involved from the beginning. And so although social services, they may want to pop round for a cup of tea, that's absolutely fine. We'll make sure there's biscuits. And you know, at the end of the day, who doesn't want to go and meet a newborn baby? And that's, so we look forward to being able to, you know, if the resources want to come and visit us, then that's absolutely fine. But if the resources just want to tick a box to, you know, check in on one occasion and then move on elsewhere, then we completely understand as well. But absolutely, it's in place to make sure that both the surrogate and the intended parents are all protected at the same time. And so we don't want to go against the system. We're happy to ride the roller coaster.
So when you
Very
say home birth, Kim, at your home, you and your
No,
wife?
it'll be Chris and Tom's actually. I live in a flat and it's just too small for a birth pool, and there being 5 people in the room
Yeah.
and a flatmate. It's too complicated. Whereas they've got a lovely house and a nice space where the pool can go, where you know you've got access from all sides and stuff. I think midwifery-led care in the UK is much more common than obstetrician-led care, like it is in the US anyway.
Yeah.
Home birth rates still aren't great in the UK, but you know, physiological birth, there's so much evidence to support it. And Yeah, I'm hopefully having a VBAC this time. I had a cesarean last time, so really hoping to avoid all the interventions and
Okay.
go as natural as possible.
And they're letting you do a VBAC from home? That would
Yeah.
never happen in the US
Oh, yeah,
ever.
Really?
no.
Ever.
Oh, yeah, no.
Mhm.
So I'm technically like out of guidelines because they do recommend a hospital birth.
Okay.
But they can make a personalized care plan, and yeah, it's my body, it's my choice, and it's their baby and their choice.
Oh
Yeah.
my
And you guys are
gosh.
comfortable, Chris and Tom, with a home birth?
Oh,
100%.
yeah, I kid you not. One of the craziest points was when we were chatting with Fiona about it once, and
The midwife.
the midwife, and she was saying about where there's going to be a birthing pool. Hopefully, Kim will be able to be in the pool. But Fiona said that, you know, she's like a lifeguard; she wants to stay dry, and so Tom and I will actually be able to get into the pool and actually be there for the birth.
They can be ones to actually catch
Coolest
the
thing.
baby. Yeah,
Oh my God. Oh, I am
Yes.
hoping that happens for all
Oh
of you.
my
me
gosh.
too.
Oh yeah. And okay, so now I'm intrigued, and you don't have to answer. But since hopefully the home birth will be at Chris and Tom's home, right? Baby's just gonna stay there. Like if all goes well, right? Like from
Right.
minute one, that baby will be in your child will be in your home. That is
Yeah.
super
Oh my
cool.
gosh, that's so awesome.
That is super cool. Are you ready for that?
So it's quite funny. My nana is 90 years old, and she often says in the UK years ago, when after your first child you'd have your second child at home,
Okay.
and so it is very much, it can be seen as quite normal here, especially with the older generations. And so yeah, with us having Fiona the midwife, she'll be able to make sure everything's okay.
Right.
And what's so wonderful knowing about modern technology as well is that at some point Fiona's going to have to go home to her own family.
Yeah.
But if you're in a hospital, you can push an alarm and then people will be able to come along and check in and make sure everything's okay.
Right.
Very much the same with us. However, we'll be able to FaceTime straight away, and so Fiona will be able to see baby if we do have any concerns. But yeah, how surreal! Like it really pulls everything right back to
It
what
does.
used to happen.
This
how
just doesn't even
sweet.
seem real. Like
Yeah.
I do y'all feel like that sometimes? Like everything's clicking and going, interlacing so well.
Knock
I-
on wood.
You couldn't
no,
write
I don't think you have to knock on wood with you. You guys seem like you're aligned. Like you said it before, Kim. Like this is amazing. It really is. You're doing so many things that would not even be allowed in the US.
No,
No.
it's serious. It's so amazing to see how different countries
Mhm.
deal with surrogacy and like what they allow and what they don't allow, because the
Right.
way that you guys are doing it, it sounds so beautiful. Like, because I know a lot of surrogates who
Mhm.
would love to have a home birth. So
Oh.
many, but
Yep.
it's the rarest thing ever. It's like accidental home births. Like that's what happens. It's
Mhm.
not. They're
Not
not really
planned.
planned. They're not
Mm-mm.
like you can go to a birthing center. I don't know if you guys
Mhm.
have that in the UK, but you can go to like a birthing center rather than a hospital. Like that's as close as you're gonna get. So
Yeah.
it's just phenomenal the way that you guys can go.
And the fact that Chris and Tom are on board with a home birth. You're on board with it, like, because you see the benefits of it. You see how it can do. It's the start of your family, and it's literally going to be in your home. I can't even. It blows my mind. I'm so excited for you. Yeah, no.
For us to be able to have the baby born into our arms, so we know what we're going to do with cord clamping, today cord clamping, and then to be able to take the baby away, clean him up, go and have the skin to skin, and then when everybody's ready, to be able to come back to Kim and introduce Kim and Delara to our son, tell them what his name is, and be able to like do that moment, that sort of like beautiful handover moment, is just something that's going to be hopefully so magical. So
That's what I was thinking.
why would we not do that?
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah,
cool.
like every surrogate that we've ever talked to, like the best part of surrogacy is when you is when you reconnect baby and parents, right? And so to be able to do that in the way that you're going to be able to do that, I am beyond envious, because that's a whole other level of intimacy that you that I'll just never be able to experience because you don't have all these doctors in your face
Right.
being like, oh, so you're introducing. So how is this going? It's like, shh, we want to just be together. Like, we don't want all these. This is not the time for questions. This is the time for a moment. And you guys, I'm just so jealous. I could cry. I'm like so happy for you guys. Like, that
This
is
is
the
so cool.
coolest thing ever.
So
oh my God.
Can I ask then, Kim? So this will be at Chris and Tom's house, and you'll have just birthed a baby. What does it look like post-birth for you? Are you staying there for the night? Are you trying to get back to your own? What's happening with you and your partner?
Totally playing that by ear. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, it depends if we do need a transfer post-birth, if we do need to go to hospital for any reason. I didn't hemorrhage last time, even with a cesarean, so that's
Wow,
like
good
quite
for you.
impressive,
Yeah.
Chances are pretty low of that anyway. But I mean, we go to stay at theirs quite often already. Like, we stay in the spare room. We have like little sleepovers. We enjoy the bath. Like, we just make use. It's like going to a little retreat every few weeks. It's really nice.
That's super fun.
Tom is an excellent cook, so like we get waited on hand and foot. It's brilliant. So I think we'll feel comfy to either stay the night or go home. Depends if I need stitches, anything like that. What time of day or night it happens to be. That's one part that we've not planned for, because I think there's just too many.
There's just
right,
too many up in the air.
Oh,
I do have a question. So I think, Chris, you had mentioned a lot of people go altruistically, like in the UK. Is this okay? So here we've learned that altruistic means that there's no compensation, and then the commercialized surrogacy has compensation. Is the UK altruistic entirely? It is.
Yeah. Altruistic.
Okay, that's great.
So for example, there's no advertising, there's no people putting themselves out there, saying and putting pressure on other people. Everything has to be, as Tom was saying, about making sure that there's a friendship, making sure there's connection, making sure no one's being put under pressure for anything. It's also to make sure that everyone's protected as well. And so with that, it means that people can come into it with open hearts, and from that, it should mean that there are more successful surrogacy journeys in ensuring that there's a strong relationship at the end, because it comes for us. It's so important to make sure that there's the relationship with our surrogate Kim, but with Kim's family. And for example, one of the main things that we're also hoping to be able to call Kim up for is, say, for example, can you imagine you've got a 6-month-old who's got a little cough, and you go to hospital, and we can contact Kim and say, did you ever have this? And Kim can say, oh yeah, I had this. All you need to do is a bit of this, and to be able to have all of those that connection as well from the beginning. Whereas if it was to feel transactional, and it was sort of like a handshake at the end, and everyone goes their separate ways, it could cause some lasting scars with some people on both sides. So especially as how close everyone has to get through the surrogacy journey, we're so grateful that we can hopefully continue everything afterwards as well.
We need to take, US needs to take some
notes
takeaways takeaways from what you all doing. Wow.
I do have a question though. So because Canada is the same way, they do altruistic surrogacy, but they get like reimbursed with like receipts and stuff like that. So is that the same thing that the UK does in the sense of that?
Yeah, so expenses can still be paid, reasonable expenses.
Right.
And this is one of the things that will be coming in the surrogacy reform as well, because what's reasonable, it's different to everybody.
Right.
We don't have to provide receipts. Like, it's helpful to go with the parental order to be like, well, these are the things that I bought that I wouldn't have bought otherwise if I wasn't pregnant. But it's not like necessary. It's not
interesting,
not a requirement.
That's a lot of trust.
So then I know you saw your mom do it. You said 4 times, right? 4? How many times? She had
6 surrogacies for 4 families.
6 surrogacies for 4 families. Okay. Wow. Whoa, I didn't catch that in the beginning.
Yeah, I thought it was 6
6.
babies for 4 families. Wow,
Whoa.
6 surrogacies.
So how many babies? 6?
Yeah.
Okay.
7.
Yeah, she's had 7 pregnancies. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh.
Whoa, we need her on. No.
Yeah.
Wow. So, okay. So how did she probably just thought it was completely normal and you said, hey, I'm going to look at surrogacy. I'm going to do, did she react that way or did she give you any advice?
I'd been mentioning it from like, I don't know, 13, 14 years old. And she always was just sort of like, oh yeah, okay, we'll see. You know, you're a teenager, whatever. And then when I was 21, I was like, no, seriously, I really don't want kids. Like, I've been thinking about it. My sisters have kids and they're a bit sticky and a bit gross and, you know, exhausting. They're lovely for an hour.
Sure.
And then I'm done. And it was one of my sisters actually who was like, oh, well, maybe just wait a few more years. You know, you might change your mind. That sort of typical, you know, a woman doesn't know her own body sort of thing. But
Yeah.
I did wait until I was 25. And I was like, no, I'm absolutely certain that I want to start. And while I'm young, you know, pregnancy is easier when you're younger. It maximizes the number of years I can do this as well. In my fertile years. And yeah, my mum then was like, oh wow, you're actually doing it. Like I sent off my application to the surrogacy agency and she has said a few times how proud she is and that, yeah, she didn't think I ever actually would do it. It was just going to be something that I said I would do. But yeah, and I've become so passionate about it as well. You know, I love talking about surrogacy. I love promoting it and, you know, publicizing and normalizing and
Yeah. So
Cool.
I don't know if this is said a lot in the UK or if you've heard whispers of it from over here, but the common thing that we hear is, oh my gosh, surrogacy is going to affect children on both ends, the intended parents and the surrogate themselves. But because you can answer it being a child of a surrogate, would you say that you're negatively affected from surrogacy?
not at all. I can't even think of a single. Well, I don't know. I have got a blood phobia, which is a direct result of my mum hemorrhaging once. So that was pretty traumatic. But you know,
she did too. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Shocking.
She still did it. No problem. Yeah. No problem.
Yeah. Yeah. But
I know. I literally watched my mum like bleeding out, and I was like, "This is something I might want to do one day."
Wow. Amazing, right? So crazy.
Yeah. Oh my god.
No, like the positive impacts massively outweigh it. You know, I saw 4 couples become families as a child, and seeing my mum doing that, I was so proud to call her my mum. I would go into school and almost do it as like a show and tell and be like, "My mum's pregnant again for someone else."
Oh, so sweet. That's
Same.
yeah. Shock factor.
I had like quite an interesting sort of cultural influence with that as well. She carried 2 babies for a Jewish couple, so it was really interesting learning about their culture and their religion, and the food was incredible. So you know, just I had life experiences that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah, same, because my mom only carried for same-sex male couples, and so I just find everything normal in life. Like so when people come up and are like, oh this and oh that, and I'm like, and the reason you're affected by any of this is because what? Like it makes no sense to me, and I'm so thankful that I don't view the world that way, because she started when I was 5. And so I just so normal. And one time she carried triplets, and that was like, that's when I knew. I was 8. She carried triplets, and I would do the same thing. I'd go in and be like, yeah, my mom's having triplets, but they're not ours. Like they're somebody else's. And everybody, everywhere we went, she tells the story where like we go to a restaurant and they're like, oh, you're expecting another one? And I just pop up. I'm like, no, she's expecting 3, but they're not for us. And like my mom has 3 kids already. And so it's just the whole wow factor of it, and it's fun. And it's amazing.
Brilliant. I was telling the boys earlier, I said like, oh yeah, it's a daughter of a surrogate, but I can't remember how many babies she's had, because I said I think there's twins in there somewhere.
Yeah, there's triplets, twins, and a single for me.
Yeah, she did it all.
For me. Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Go figure. And those triplets will be 22 this year, and I have relationships with all of them, all the triplets.
Oh,
yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. And their dads. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it's super awesome. Oh my gosh. Well,
nice.
Like, do you guys have any advice to give people? Like, any advice? It could be just UK based. Like, I'm just so I could talk to you guys for hours. Like, this is just so fascinating.
I'm interested in Chris and Tom on what. Stay true to yourself when you're looking for a surrogate, like that. Like, don't make sure you can make the connection. Is that kind of what you would all say, or you say what you would all say?
Yeah, we were we were looking for our surrogate for years. As I say, during the pandemic, sort of starting looking into organizations, then exploring what surrogacy actually entails. So that education, and say being a part of an agency that can help to educate you, because there are so many different steps. Even just choosing what journey you're going to have, whether it be traditional, gestational, where the egg's going to come from, how you're going to create your embryos, who's going to be the one that creates the embryos,
Right.
all of these different factors, as well as then the financial side, because obviously there's an awful lot of planning that goes into that. But taking the time to learn everything so that you're best informed, so that you can make the best decisions for you, but also then putting yourself out there and being open to the relationships. I think this is something that's going to be life-changing for everybody involved. And so having met so many amazing surrogates over the years, but knowing what it's like when you find someone that you get on with and you vibe with, it's so amazing as Kim is for us. It's worth waiting for, and as I say, but taking the time and building that relationship, not taking anything for granted, because it's a very emotional, highly charged environment to be in, particularly when you're meeting lots of other intended parents.
It's a very vulnerable place to be as well, isn't it? There are a lot of intended parents that are extremely vulnerable and willing to do anything and give anything to create their family. And quite often people think it's the surrogate that can be taken advantage of, when actually I think it can very much be the other way around. There's a lack of surrogates in the UK. I think it's probably similar in the US, not quite as bad. I think compensation kind of helps.
When you said that you got to view 15, it kind of put in perspective how rare surrogates might be in the UK, because that is, wow, that's a lot.
Because I fence it a bit more with compensation. I think, you know, what a woman chooses to do with her body is her choice, and if she wants to get paid to carry a baby for someone, I don't have any problems with that.
Right.
It's not legal in the UK, and we make it work with expenses. It's fine. I have a full-time job. It would be great if I could quit my job during surrogacy and just focus on growing a baby, but you know, there's other ways around it. But but then equally, I think the altruistic model is beautiful, and you do end up with these wonderful relationships that if it was transactional, maybe it wouldn't be the same.
How long did you, Chris and Tom, how long were you on your journey before you met Kim?
So we started off originally signing up in 2020, and but one of the things that I think is really, really important for anyone who is in the same position as Tom and myself, or maybe in other positions where a couple cannot hold a baby themselves, I would actually say just start learning straight away. And so you don't have to jump into agencies, you don't have to jump into, but the learning process can be a long process as well, because there's so much to learn, and as you're picking things up and you're absorbing it, you're also sharing that out with friends and family, and so you're pulling together your tribe. And then as we found it, how a lot of meetings we've gone to with other intended parents, we found that they're actually local to us as well, and so we built a village around us as well, which is so important for again, having a child through surrogacy, so then they know another child who could just be a couple of miles up the road. And also another thing that we learned is how many surrogates there are within our area, and it's something that was so eye-opening, that there's these heroes without capes in our area, that and it not being discussed openly enough, and it not being part of normal conversation. You know, for me, I think it should almost be on the front page of a newspaper. Every time that a surrogate has done this giving this huge gift for a couple, and also a family. So on my side and Tom's side, Kim's not just making us parents, she's also making my parents grandparents, and also my brothers will be uncles, your sister will be an auntie, and so this is something that's going to give so much to us as well. And I do believe that one other thing that is so important, and it is that if anyone is thinking about going through surrogacy, feel free to not see it as a challenge or anything, but to self-evaluate what they want from the beginning, but feel free to change decisions as they're going through any processes, and be open and transparent throughout. Because for us as a cluster, we've been able to have conversations where Kim's come up with an idea and we would never have thought about it, and so we just think that that's so important to make sure that as the friendship grows and as the baby grows, conversations should grow as well.
Absolutely,
advice.
100%.
Love you guys. Are you just like in love, Kim? Like, I mean, I know
No.
you have a partner and everything, but like, God, oh my gosh.
I'm in love with you three.
Oh my gosh. like you are on this pedestal, like you should be. And what you said, heroes without capes, I loved it. Like, that's exactly what surrogates are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Surrogates are putting their lives on the line effectively.
Yeah.
And that is something that is the most giving thing a human being can do for someone else. And it's something that in society and across the world should absolutely be championed. There should be a national surrogacy day, as there's surrogacy weeks, but in really empowering women and couples to be able to talk about history that, let's be honest, in generations before may not have been discussed if there was surrogacy, but instead for us to be able to unveil that history and celebrate it for everyone who was involved in the first place.
I've been sat here trying to think of my one piece of advice. I definitely don't have one piece.
For sure.
Education is definitely, I think the main thing. I remember when I was looking to match, there was one couple who I was the first person in the world of surrogacy they had ever spoken to.
Wow.
And I was very honest with them, and I said, look, this just isn't going to work. I'm not going to hold your hand through the whole journey. Like, you need to go and do that research. You need to go and find your community, find your people, find your village, and learn about surrogacy and what it entails. And Chris and Tom have witnessed surrogates carrying babies, and they've witnessed communication breakdown between teams, and they've seen the highs and the lows of journeys, so they can see where it goes really right, and they can see where it does occasionally go a little bit sideways. So they've got this really great knowledge about surrogacy, which, being a daughter of a surrogate, I was lucky to have that, but not everyone inherently has that, and it does take effort to go out and work towards. I think from a surrogate perspective, I would say I don't think there's one right way to do a journey. There's certainly a lot of wrong ways to do things, but there's no one particular right way. I know surrogates who do want the transactional approach, and they don't want the intended parents to ever meet their family. They don't want them to see their home. They keep that distance, and that's how they separate themselves from the journey. Then there's the complete opposite end of the spectrum where, I'm hopefully going to give birth to their baby in their house. That's I think it is that massive spectrum, and you don't have to do it one particular way. You don't have to put yourself in a box.
But you have to be honest.
Exactly. Because if both sides are agreeing to meet in the middle or leaning more towards one side, then your journey will go how both of you expect it to go. But if you guys are on completely different ends, that's when things dissolve and there becomes problems. And so
honesty and communication are definitely the key things as well. Sure.
Because we've talked about it before too, like when we have the match meetings in the United States, right, where they go on Zoom and they talk, and everybody's putting their best foot forward, and they're, of course, and this and that, and they're not maybe touching on the hard topics. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But when you said you sat for 4 hours at a coffee shop or in the garden, at a pub, and hit big topics right off the bat, that's some serious conversation that went for 4 hours. That's impressive. That's kind of how it should be, because why invest yourself to work with somebody and be a cluster? I love that terminology, be a cluster. If you can't address those conversations from day one, I know they're hard, you got to address them. And you're kind of like the bar of surrogate clusters. You're the bar. People need to meet that. They do. It's amazing.
It felt natural having those conversations that early on as well. It didn't feel forced. It just flowed, and we were like, oh, okay, right, we're on the same page about these things. Let's talk about this as well and see if we're on the same page about that, because there's no point pursuing
Right.
this. We're not going to be
Yes.
on the same page. Maybe we can
Exactly.
be friends outside of surrogacy, but we're here for a purpose. So let's talk
Mhm.
about it.
Yeah,
Wow. Amazing.
exactly.
You guys
Oh
are
my
you guys are
I
incredible.
want to come live in the UK now.
Oh,
Like,
you're incredible.
I want to come there.
It
I mean,
rains a lot.
I always envied. I mean, I watch The Holiday and I'm just like, okay, I need to go and live this life now. But I know that that's not real, but I need to do it.
Oh, brilliant.
I need
How
to do
how
it.
far apart do you guys live? Is it far?
40 minutes,
yeah.
40 minutes to an
Oh
hour.
my
There you go.
gosh.
Great.
That's amazing.
That's
Which
easy.
was another key thing for me as well.
Yeah.
Like because I'd already had one journey, I think you do learn a lot on your first journey as
Mhm.
well.
Oh yeah. It's a
Yeah, no
learning
matter how much I
experience.
thought I knew. But
Yeah. But it's a learning experience. I mean, just like we grew up with it, right? But it doesn't matter. Like it matters, but it doesn't, because like your own journey, you're gonna learn so many new things. And I'm assuming you've done this, what, 20 years later from when your mom did it, right? Or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. So a
When she
lot of
started
things have changed
Mm.
since. And
yeah, definitely. Like, and you know, obviously I'm a different person to my mom as well.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I've been really keen to do publicity and get the word out there, whereas my mum didn't do anything like that. So it's quite interesting navigating social media and stuff as a surrogate. And
Mhm.
yeah, trying to think of something else. It's completely gone out of my brain, sorry.
You're
All right.
good.
You're 31 weeks.
Oh.
You're allowed to have pregnant brain. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Braxton Hicks absolutely took my mind somewhere else then.
Oh my God.
Oh God, this has been lovely.
I was
I'm
like, oh my god, it's very hard.
so cool.
Oh.
Wait, I do have a question. Your partner, Kim, been supportive about this? Been on board from day one? Like, did it take coercion? What? No, she was on board.
Yeah, I actually just tie her down, you know. No, we actually got together when I was 6 months pregnant last time. So yeah, very much on board. Didn't phase her in the slightest. She's really enjoyed being part of this journey from the beginning, being part of the matching process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It really is. It's
Book. Like,
very cool.
all of you should write a book. It would be the best thing ever. So informative. What you should do in a journey, like how you get this amazing relationship. It's
Don't be afraid of the relationship.
Yeah.
I think people sometimes put up walls and are afraid to get too close, because how's that going to look once baby does enter the world and IPs are being busy being new parents and you're kind of recovering and going back to your life? How does that look afterwards? So I think people do put up walls, and it appears that you guys just had no walls from day one. Like,
Yeah.
this is what we want to do. We're on a journey. We need to be a unit, a cluster, and you did it. I'm amazed. I'm so excited for you. I am.
I think it's, you know, you say like about becoming new parents and stuff. That's obviously in my mind that, yeah, they're going to be very busy soon, but
Yeah.
The relationship's already changing throughout pregnancy. I'm slowing down. I don't really want to go out and about as much. And I'm normally quite an adventurous, exploring type person. And I'm like, I'm in the third trimester. Can we just sit down?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's already evolving. And I think as long as you've got an open mind that the relationship is going to evolve and that it's going to change, I think really helps.
Absolutely. Oh my
So
gosh.
cool.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Chris, Tom, Kim, thank you guys so much for taking part of your Sunday to talk to us. I know it's later where you are, so
Yeah,
we appreciate it. And the sun's just coming up here, so
Yeah. So cool.
oh my
How
gosh.
fun. Did you all just drop by, or did you know she was going on a podcast?
No, it just popped in.
We went to a pie and mash cafe for lunch today.
So fun. Oh, well, we're the lucky ones. We got all three of you.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. So thank
Oh
you
my gosh.
so much. Oh my God.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for having
Thank
us
you
on.
both.
It's been
Thank
great.
you.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Thank-
lovely talking to all three of you. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day or night.
Thank you.
Have a good week.
Thank you. Bye.
See you guys. Good luck. Good luck.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Bye.
You're welcome.
Oh my God.
That is so cool.
That
I
was
can't.
so cool.
I can't. I didn't know she was traditional.
I
Did
didn't know she
you?
was traditional. No.
Like, blow me away. That is
Well,
by far.
all I knew was that she was UK and she had been
Mom.
a surrogate before.
And her mom was a surrogate.
And her mom was a surrogate because she had reached out and we were talking. And I was like, stop it right now. Like, oh my gosh.
Amazing.
I've never met another me. Like,
Yeah.
that's so cool.
What,
And so,
and the, what did she call it? A surrogate with no child? What she
like
put
a
it in
childless surrogate or
surrogate,
something.
that would never happen in the
Oh, it
United
never happened
States.
here.
Ever.
Never, never, ever, 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 ever.
And the fact that they allow it in the UK,
That's phenomenal.
more, yes.
But I also think, you know what, as it was going on, I was like,
Mm.
I wonder if it's because it's considered altruistic. So
Maybe.
really there's not,
Mhm.
and it's traditional. So like
Yeah.
really you kind by that alone, by both those are the two most costly things in that is surrogacy. Like that's what you're paying. Sorry, but that's
Right.
what you're compensating
No.
for. Whatever.
Yeah.
That's where the money goes when you're
Yeah.
doing a commercial surrogacy.
Yes.
So I'm thinking maybe that's why, because it's like, well, we can try it. And like,
Yeah.
if it doesn't work, it doesn't, like, it's no harm, no foul at that
And
point.
nobody's doing it for the quote unquote compensation. That clearly was not her intention at
Well,
all.
right. But I'm
Clearly.
saying like the parents aren't out of money by doing
Correct.
an IVF transfer, because in doing that in somebody who has not had a child, that's a risk taker.
I don't even think this was IVF. I think this was
No, I know,
AMO.
that's what I'm saying though.
Okay.
Because
Oh, I
she
get what you're
she
saying.
did it in home insemination or whatever.
Right?
You're not spending money. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Oh, whoa.
It
But
goes
like
back
I could
to the
talk to them for
roots.
hours, and they're the most adorable three like people. And I'm sure her partner is adorable too.
Cluster.
Like cluster. Cluster. It is a cluster.
Love it. It can, it can be good or bad. This seems to be phenomenal cluster.
I might start using that term now.
Oh my God, I loved it.
I love that term.
It.
It's a cluster. I also just love how European people speak, because like the way they went to a pub. I want to go to a pub. Like I want to go
Be
to
a
a
local
pub.
bar first. 4 hours later, and I was like, what? And
But that's how it should be.
yes.
Because like as they were talking though, I'm like, that's interesting. All my people I've met online, like via Zoom. All your people you met in person.
Person.
Like, and
It
so
was,
it's like,
it was criteria to meet in
I
person.
know,
It
and I feel
was.
like they should bring that back. Like, you should, maybe you do a Zoom. Maybe you do it in two part. You do a Zoom,
Mhm.
and then like you're talking to people, and it's like, oh, okay. And then if you want to move from there, then maybe you figure out how to meet up in person, even if you're states away, because your people were states away. Now I
States
get
away.
it. International is very, very different.
Difficult.
But
Yeah.
like if you're stateside, I feel like that should be now a criteria, because maybe you'll have
More of a
those
connection.
walls won't be up, because literally there is an internet wall in front of you.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Yeah.
They should bring that
But then on
back.
the flip side of it, because of the pandemic and because thank God there was Zoom, because then
No.
people could
But
still
now
talk
there's
and meet.
not. So
No, I
I'm
get it.
saying like bring it. It should be brought
Right.
back.
Yeah. I
should
get
be
it.
brought back.
It's and I just have to give her all three of them kudos, all three. But she was so confident, knew exactly what she wanted,
Yeah.
interviewed so many
Oh my God.
IPs and kind of found them, they found her. But that's exactly what each one was looking for. So she didn't rush the process. I guess that's what I'm trying to hit on.
Neither of them did. That's
No,
the
they
thing.
did not.
Neither of them did. They knew that it would take a while, because there's not a lot of surrogates. Clearly, because if you're being showed 15 people, I'm sorry. Say what? Like that's never would happen. Like
never.
Never.
And I think on the US side, and I am not saying this is for sure, but IPs are on waiting lists for such a long time that when a surrogate comes up and they're interested in them, you know what? I think sometimes they're willing to overlook maybe a discrepancy because maybe we can work that out later. But clearly they hit on every single aspect of this journey that they were looking for. And they agreed. And it seemed like when they didn't agree, there was just, oh, how about this idea? And then they were open to it. So that's, I think the big takeaway for me is that they just knew what they wanted and they went in, said it. And
I do truly think that there is a surrogate and an IP that are looking, right? I always have thought this, that there's always that surrogate and there's always that perfect IP, and they're always there. It's just maybe they're not in the same place at the same time, but there's always going to be a surrogate. So that's why I think it's nice to have social media and be like, hey, this is what we're looking for, because you know what, maybe they're at a different place and you guys can figure out how can you come together, because there are so many agencies, which has everybody so divided. And it was never done intentionally, obviously, but because now people are being able to become more vocal about what it is that they're looking for, and because social media is so prominent in the surrogacy world now, that you could easily find your perfect match away from the platform that you're at currently.
And they did.
I know.
They did.
But
Yeah.
like, look at that.
Right. Yeah.
So
It's crazy.
take your time, and your
Right.
perfect match. I put air
Right.
quotes, but
'Cause
like,
the
you know, your
relationship-
match is out there.
Because the relationship is a huge part of it. Huge
The
part of it.
relationship is everything.
It is. It is.
It's everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Well,
that was fun.
Oh my God, it's so fun.
What?
It's so fun.
Yeah.
The sun was going down and the sun was coming up here. How
I
poetic.
know, huh?
Poetic. So if anybody would like to share their story or has questions, please feel free to reach out to us on Instagram at Stop.Sit.Surrogate. And this has been another episode of Stop Sit Surrogate with Kennedy and Ellen.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye guys.